Well, MAPPS members, I apologize for not being there today. Some of you may know I'm a member of the Army Reserves and had to travel to California this week on short notice. But before I start, I wanted to thank a few MAPPS members for their help with the Region 5 soil judging contest that we organized out of Grand Rapids this September. Specifically Gary Elsner, Jim Balog, Georgia Dufresne, and Suzanne Francis for their help as pit monitors. Roger Risley, Mike Rokas, Mike Jelinski, Larissa Schmidt, Patty Burns, and Joe Brennan, who I called the cavalry, for coming in the day before and really helping out to coordinate the contest. And also Jim Grease for assisting with getting permission to dig some pits on the National Forest. And finally, last but not least, Mike Whited, who was the backhoe operator, coffee drinker, and overall motivator to get everything for the contest set up. So thank you all very much. For my talk today, I want to talk a little bit about joint university professional interests. I think we're in a critical time period where it's more important than ever to coordinate efforts to grow the soils discipline in our state and beyond. So I want to talk about our kind of initiatives and how we engage in the future of our discipline together. We all know that soils is a discovery field, and to maintain that we need both numbers and diversity in order to survive and expand. We're fortunate that soils information is in high demand right now, and a soils minor can hold really good value for students as they enter the job market. We at the university provide the gateway to technical soils knowledge, and you guys on the professional side really provide the relevance and context for the many ways that this knowledge can be applied. So I want to discuss the specifics of our pipeline on the academic side and some of our current initiatives. Basic soil science is our largest audience each year. The question that I always ask myself is, how do we provide a real spark for increasing the numbers of students and increasing diversity of the student base? As we know, soils is a discovery field and a discovery major, and the audience of 150 to 200 students a year is a huge opportunity to communicate that. Most students come into basic soil science never having thought deeply about soils. They care mostly about the fossil energy that runs our lives, electricity, computers now, and very few are well connected with the land base. So one of our goals in introductory soils is to communicate the really central role that soils play in providing human energy and supporting the terrestrial resource base. I'm showing this picture because I had a political science major in the basic soils class last spring, and it was really interesting in our conversations with him that he started thinking about the political system through the lens of the soil resource. So human energy doesn't run without food, and in the United States we're really rich from the legacy and the inheritance of our soils. And these soils carried the United States westward and supported the resource base that gives us the really great quality of life that we enjoy today. So behind every political system, every warrior, and every community is the silent greatness of our soil. And that soil is precious. Only about 13% of the Earth's surface is arable. And that small, thin layer supports all of our food, feed, fiber, and ecosystem service requirements. The soil resource is under competing pressures from urbanization, forestry, agriculture, and pastoral uses. And at the same time, about a third of global soils are moderately to highly degraded. So the soil resource in the midst of all of these pressures is also being asked to contribute to solving multiple grand challenges related to food security, climate change, water quality, and human health. And today's generations are going to be and are already faced with unprecedented challenges. So we need to produce technical experts who have an understanding of the fundamental principles of soil science. And although we live in a world of unprecedented challenges, we also live in a world of unprecedented information. These figures are some of the first data produced from the NASA SMAP satellite, the Soil Moisture Active Passive Sensor, whose mission is to provide global coverage of soil moisture predictions to 5 centimeters of depth on a 3-day interval. And so these figures on the left, the one on the left is from April 1st, 2015, the one on the right is from April 13th. The blue is water in frozen state in the soil, and the red is water that's thawed. What you can see is the advance of the freezing front in 2 weeks on a global scale. So this is fantastic information. And we live in a world where we're getting better at analyzing large data sets, collecting large amounts of information, and taking that information in real time to make better decisions. So we also have an unprecedented understanding of historical mistakes and successes and how those have affected the soil resource. We can use that new understanding of the effects of our resource management to improve the way that we manage our soils today. So we have the tools, and better management of the soil resource is possible as long as we continue to produce technical experts and informed citizens. Producing this pool of technical experts has never been more critical. In the U.S., only 2% of the population depends directly on soil management for their livelihoods. And this gap is expanding and the disconnect is growing, as now the majority of the world's population lives in urban areas, and that percentage is only projected to increase as we move forward in the future. So education and engagement is absolutely critical when it comes to soil science. I would say the soil unites us, and I think that's true whether we're interacting with people in our own state or halfway across the world. As graduates of the State Land Grant Institution, I tell my students that they bear a responsibility to be leaders and problem solvers, and to educate, communicate, and inspire others in pursuit of a better understanding of our soil resource. That's true whether or not they go on to be soil science minors or soil scientists. These students represent a small fraction of the population that understands soils and their importance. So how are we doing? Here's some historical numbers on how large our classes in basic soil science have been. Remember, this is our beginning pool of students who may go on to think more deeply about soils. What you can see is that since semester records began in 1999 or 2000, we've had a slightly declining trend. Some of this is structural. It's not all to do with just the basic soil science class. These things fluctuate with enrollment in the college, and they fluctuate with how programs are structured, whether or not this is a mandatory class. But what you can see is there's a slight overall declining trend. There's some cycles that go on, increases and decreases. This year we've got more students in the college than we've ever had, and I think we've also been very successful in drawing students into basic soil science. You can see our 2016 projected numbers are staying up closer to 180. We're trying to get above 180 in future years and maintain that. That would be good. If we can maintain between 180 and 200 students a year, that would be a huge success. Our main initiatives for basic soil science are to increase numbers. Also, increasing diversity is extremely important with our student body at the University of Minnesota. And bringing in global perspectives to draw in students from different fields, different backgrounds. This gentleman here in the picture on the left is Al Lohes. I'm very excited to say that he's going to be my TA for basic soils in the spring. Al is originally from Zaire and got his degree in Bachelor's of Science in Soil Science at the University of Zaire in the 70s. He came to the United States in the 80s and did a master's in ag economics and was intending to return to Zaire to work in soil science, but because of conflict and civil war, he never returned and stayed in the Twin Cities for the next 2 or 3 decades. And only last year he went back for the first time and saw the tremendous amount of food insecurity, mismanagement of the soil resource in formerly Zaire, what is now Democratic Republic of Congo. And Al's been there for the last 5 months, looking at land use and soil properties across the climate gradient. He'll be back in January, just in time to TA basic soils, and he is extremely passionate. He's got a fantastic global perspective, and I think students are really going to respond to having Al as a TA. So bringing in these global perspectives is really important for drawing in not only numbers in students, but also student diversity. If basic soil science is the spark, then field studies is the hook. We know that students get really inspired when they can get out to the field and apply their knowledge. And most of our students that end up in field studies also start thinking about doing a soils minor and potentially eventually the professional exam. I'm really happy to say that our 2015 class for field study of soils is the largest class we've ever had. Also the most diverse in terms of cultural backgrounds, majors, year in school. We had a wide range of years in school, which is really fantastic, and I think it's something that we need to continue to cultivate as we move forward. Here's some numbers. What we do know about our field studies class is that the numbers are generally closely related to how many students we have in basic soil science. So basic soil science is our big pool, and that the size of that pool impacts how many students are interested in taking field study of soils. What you can see in these gray data points and that dotted regression line is the trend for all of the basic soils and field studies numbers since semester records began in 1999, with the exception of 2014 and 2015. And I think what you'll see with those orange dots in 2014 and 2015 is that we've totally busted that curve. We've got more students involved in field studies than we, based on previous records, should have from our basic soil science numbers. So I think in changing our field studies course, we're thinking about expanding it to 2 weeks. We've really changed the number of students that are interested and can register for field studies. This is really where we get students hooked. You guys all know that. It's probably where you got hooked on soils, and so it's important that we continue to foster this class as a pathway into soil science and professional practice. I'm a little bit biased because I coach soil judging, so I think soil judging is really one of our key classes where students can finally really apply their knowledge and do it independently like they would if they were working professionally. This year, we hosted the 2015 Region 5 Soil Judging Contest out of Grand Rapids, Minnesota. This is a picture of that group. 62 students, faculty, and staff from 5 different institutions in our region. That was our institution, University of Minnesota, Kansas State University, Iowa State University, South Dakota State University, and Nebraska-Lincoln. These students had 3 days of practice, 12 practice pits or sites in and around Grand Rapids, and also 5 contest pits. So in all, they got to see 17 really fantastic soil pits, again, dug by Mike Whited. And we actually got comments on how well the pits were dug, how deep they were. I know Mike can never resist going deeper, so he did a really good job of providing these sites for the students. Another thing I'd like to mention is that nationally we're seeing a decline in participation in soil judging, both at the institutional level and in terms of number of students. So I was just at a meeting of the National Soil Judging Committee at the SSSA meetings a couple weeks ago, and one thing we discussed was really, the contest is important because it makes it fun for students. Intercollegiate competition kind of raises the bar, it makes it fun, but in the end, we really need to focus on the educational opportunity, win or lose. And so I think in the past there's been some members who have been really focused just on winning, and we've had a lot of discussions about dialing that down a little bit and just saying, we need to get more students involved, we need to get more institutions involved, and really show the importance of this activity. So one example in our region, both North Dakota and Missouri are no longer sending teams to participate in soil judging, and that's either because of the loss of pedologists or lack of somebody who's really firing up the students to get excited and get out there. So we need to encourage those institutions to send students to participate. It's not about win or lose, it's just about getting out there and seeing some really great soils and traveling with students. Another thing I would add to that is some of the discussion at the National Soil Judging Committee meeting was centered around allowing institutional teams. So in other words, if there's not enough interest at one institution to put forward a whole team for soil judging, if they had 2 or 3 interested students, those students could join another institution so that would enable them to travel and compete even if their own home institution can't support it. And so this was something that was kind of unanimously supported by people that were in the room at the committee meeting, and I think it's something that we'll probably see in the future as we try to get these smaller schools involved and more students involved. Just an overview of the contest. We had a really great range of practice sites on different parent materials in the Grand Rapids area. Jim Grease really helped pick out some sites on the Chippewa National Forest, and also Patty Burns, I should mention, did a huge amount of work finding and selecting these sites. We had sites in Outwash on the Chippewa. These soils were obviously very sandy. They had some great lamellae in some cases. Students were really excited to see those. And what I'll call proto-spodic features. Mike Whited and I spent a lot of time sitting in some of these pits discussing these, and in a bar. These protospodic features are really these reddish horizons that are underlying E's. None of them actually make spodic based on morphology or lab data, but when you look at them, they look like, the beginnings of a spodic horizon. So I just kind of lumped these into these protospodic features. We recognize that they're there morphologically, but they don't actually make spodic criteria. We also had some sites on till at the University of Minnesota's North Central Research and Outreach Center, which is just south of Grand Rapids. These till soils were fantastic, really unique and complex in some cases. Lithologic discontinuities all over the place, glossic horizons, really great clay films. I think some of these soils, if you think about teaching clay films or telling somebody what clay films look like, these soils are the places where you would want to go, because the clay films along some of the ped faces in these soils are undeniable. You really understand what clay films look like when you see these. And also really great platy structure that students had not really had a chance to see in other parts of our region. Lithologic discontinuities, there's a lot of different parent materials overlaying in some of these till soils. So usually there's a lust cap with some silt loam, very fine sandy loam material, no coarse fragments over till. And then may also have outwash below or even above in some cases, some very complex soils that we saw on the North Central Research and Outreach Center property with outwash above till. Glossic horizons, nobody in our region has seen these, and so it was a great opportunity for the students to get out and see glossic horizons. Again, really great clay films for students who have never seen these. Platy structure, in some cases, very, very strong platy structure in E horizons over till. And then we had a site in the Glacial Lake Upham Basin on organic soils and some lacustrine parent material sediments. So we were able to show students a histosol. They actually were standing on a ditch side looking at a histosol, and I know some students from Iowa State at least took their picture with the histosol and tagged it on Facebook. So this was definitely one of the highlights. All the teams got out and got to use a Macaulay peat auger. And they also learned the von Post method along with the USDA rub fiber method for assessing the degree of decomposition of organic materials. This variety of sites really allowed the students and faculty to see a wide range of different land uses that we have in northern Minnesota. So they drove by the taconite mines, forestry practices, beef production, and peat mining, which was a really unique land use that many people didn't have an opportunity to see before. Our contest site, I have to give a shout out to Randy Kolka of the U.S. Forest Service for really being a fantastic advocate for soil judging and supporter, allowing us to dig our contest pits in the Marcel Experimental Forest. So the contest site wrapped up all of those practice sites. We had outwash soils, till soils, and organics at Marcel for the contest. Here's the 2015 University of Minnesota soil judging team. Ed Nader was kind enough to coach the team while I was organizing the Region 5 contest. They were really a fantastic team and had a great time all week. They also were the winners of the overall trophy, They also won 3rd place in group judging, and Sandra Larson got 5th place in individual. So a good haul of hardware, which is now housed in Borlaug Hall just outside of our soils lecture room. So thanks, Ed, for doing such a great job in coaching the team. This spring, we're going to the National Soil Judging Contest in Manhattan, Kansas, hosted by Kansas State University. It's going to be from April 3rd to the 8th. I'm trying to get us down there a day before. I have some acquaintances that have property down in the Manhattan area, and we're actually going to go dig some soil pits even before we do practice, just to give the students some exposure, some practice, if you will, and just a chance to get out and see more Kansas soils. We are definitely looking for donations because this year we hosted regionals and then we're going to nationals. We've had more expenses than we would normally have. Stacy Nordstrom, our communications expert in our department, has set up a page where you can give directly to the soil judging team. So the website is www.swac.umn.edu, and you can go to the current students page, and there's a soil judging page under that. And she set up a link that says give directly to the soil judging team. If you click on that, you can give a donation using a credit card, and it will go directly to the University of Minnesota Foundation Fund that supports the soil judging team. So we certainly appreciate any donations, and we'll also probably be doing a crowdfunding effort sometime in March before we travel to the national contest. Finally, the last piece of this puzzle from the academic side is our soils minor and the fundamentals exam. So we all know that this is really the place where students gain technical competence from taking all the classes they have to take for the soils minor, and also begin to develop themselves as professionals to enter the workforce. We also know that fundamentals exam numbers have been extremely low, not just in our state, but nationwide. And I just talked to Don Gibas a couple weeks ago about this, and so we're thinking about ways that we can get more students engaged. We kind of redesigned the soil science minor this spring, or at least revisited it and revamped it, so that every single one of our soil science minors now is eligible to take the professional exam. That was not true up until a year ago. And so I think that this change is going to have an impact on the number of students we'll see taking the professional exam. And I think just our reorganization has helped bring more students into the minor. So I'm also happy to report that fall 2015, we have the largest group of declared soil science minors since semester record keeping began in 1999. And here's a historical look at those numbers. It starts on the transition from quarters to semesters in '99. That also corresponded with the transition from the soils major to the soils minor. What you can see is we've had steadily increasing numbers, and this year we really jumped up, and I think a lot of that has to do with the way that we've redesigned this. Ed Nader's the minor coordinator, and he's done a really good job of engaging with students and bringing them into the minor. I also want to thank Gary Elsner and Jim Balog for really leading the effort from the MAPPS side to get some kind of test fee reimbursement subsidy for students who are interested in taking the professional exam on the books, and we've done that now. We don't have any students that have used it yet, but I think over the next semester or two we're going to see students who are now well prepared from the minor that's been revamped to take the professional exam. They'll start using that. I can't guarantee what the numbers are going to be, but I know that there's definitely interest from students in a wide range of fields, engineers, our environmental science students, I even had a nutrition student that was interested in the professional exam and soils minor. So I think we're on the right path, and it's just a matter of continuing to work together over the coming years. So ongoing work, I think we really need to continue collaborations, our joint support and promotion of our field. If there's any way that we can contribute from the university side to the MAPPS job board, I think that would be great. Our students can definitely go look there and begin to kind of think about what options they might have with a soils minor. We can also expand it beyond just a state focus if that's of interest to anybody. Increasing student membership in MAPPS. I know this spring I had a little contest in basic soils, and the winning group got memberships to student memberships to MAPPS. That might be a way moving forward to get a few more students involved. I'm planning on doing that again this spring, and Jay Bell teaches basic soils in the fall, and he may do the same thing just in a couple weeks in December. Networking is also going to be really important, showing students that membership in MAPPS and just the people that they meet can really help them as they try to decide what they want to do, applying their soils knowledge and really moving into the professional field. So thank you all very much. I appreciate your time, and unfortunately I can't take questions, but I'm happy to talk to any of you about any of these ideas, issues, concerns, or better ways to do this that you might have, and I look forward to working together in the future. Thank you very much.